call this place Thunder Valley. With its 26 to 30 degree banking and its wicked fast speeds, Bristol Motor Speedway is a tough place to conquer. Tonight, the Precision Racing League Cup Series will look to do battle at the last great Coliseum. Who will come home with the victory at the world's fastest half mile? And who will return with just the steering wheel? We're about to see here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee for the fourth race, the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. I'm Justin Brentz. Alongside the booth tonight is NASCAR iRacing World Championship Series driver Christian Challenger. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, this is a very tough place to get around, but to find the best way to do so, let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Brian Yazek, and today I'll be taking you for a spin around the Coliseum known as the Bristol Motor Speedway. Quick laps, high banks, short tempers, that's the name of the game for Bristol. So, for your qualifying lap, you are going to try to find the bottom of the track relatively quickly. Try to brake right about at that yellow sign, bring it down to the bottom, wait on the gas, then get back on it. Same situation, braking right about that Nationwide or ZMAX sign, depending on your driving style. Down to the bottom again, off of the corner. Now, your qualifying time is probably going to be the only time you're going to find the bottom. The fast way around Bristol is actually right up here in this top groove. You can kind of diamond it down off of 2, and you can do the exact same in 3 and 4. Ride it in high, let it roll, pick up the gas, back on to it, and right back around. Bristol does allow for some interesting racing just because you're going to have a whole train of guys trying to run that top of the groove. And then maybe if it's a night race, you might see the bottom try to pan out, but in all honesty, it's not the quick way around in the race. The only time it's going to be quick is for your qualifying lap. Once again, riding high, let it roll, grab the gas, back into it off of the corner, let the banking kind of hold you in place there. And then coming real wide, ride that nice seam up there, back down, across the start-finish line. And this has been your guide around the Bristol Motor Speedway. My name is Brian Yazek. Thank you for watching.
That's a look at your GSRC lap guide for the best way to get around Bristol Motor Speedway. But let's bring in my broadcast partner, Christian Challenger. And Christian, this is going to be a tough one for some of the drivers. A very difficult short track.
Yeah, a very, very fast half-mile track. A ton of banking in the turns, 30 degrees, as you see there. And a little bit different at both ends of the track. One end a little bit narrower than the other, and just kind of throws it out there and makes it just that little bit harder. And especially when you got to run around other guys as well, it's a very, very difficult racetrack, and it's almost always normally about survival rather than it is being the fastest guy. And tonight we're going to have 165 laps, so a long way for these guys to go.
Absolutely. It should be an interesting one here. The time's 14.7 to 15 seconds in practice. But before we look at your championship standings, I'd like to remind you this series is presented by Diecast Kings. Shop Diecast Kings, your home for the best selection of NHRA and NASCAR diecast cars at diecastkings.com. Once again, diecastkings.com. You can also find them on Facebook at facebook.com/diecastking. Now, the championship took an interesting turn at Michigan, where it was Richard Regan Jr. coming away with his second win in 3 races so far this season. He's overtopped James O'Brien in the point standings by 21 points. Dallas Pataska only ran 15 laps at Michigan and finished with the DNF in dead last. He's now 27 points back in the standings, just 2 ahead of Pat Harvey and Skidmark Motorsports. Primetime Racing's Corey Silva rounds out the top 5, 31 points behind. He was the second place finisher at Michigan. In terms of the team standings, Skidmark Motorsports off to a good start. Up 27 points over Winnebago Road Trip Racing this season, with Pilot Performance Group in 3rd. Primetime Racing enters tonight in 4th, just 1 point ahead of Crash Motorsports. The other teams on the season, Lavoie Motorsport, Winnebago Ramrod, Rescue Racing, 24/7 Motorsports, and Avery Autosports look to break into that top 5 in the near future. Now, for those tuning in for the first time this season, Christian, let's take a look at the race details because this could be crucial with the 1 hour time limit this series has.
Yeah, we were speaking a little bit about this before we came on air, and it's going to be 165 laps tonight or 60 minutes. Now, if we get a lot of cautions, it's going to be very tight as to whether we're actually going to get all those laps in. And as usual in this league, it's going to be fixed setup. Quite a tight incident cap tonight, actually, for Bristol. 24 incidents, and you can rack those up very, very quickly around here. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a couple of guys getting DQ'd tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the potential for attrition at Bristol. Let's take a look at the track conditions, because on average throughout the entire week on the iRacing service, they floated around 79 to 86 degrees at the start. It's 84 degrees Fahrenheit for the drivers right now, 77 degrees the air temp with 57% humidity on the racetrack today. The thing is, though, with this track, that's to be expected, and the temperatures will pick up the more you run on the surface like these cars are doing in practice.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bit of a crossover going to happen here because we're getting towards the night. You can see the sun's going down a little bit, so that's going to bring the temperature down. But as you say, the more guys you got out here, and obviously come race time when everybody's out here, it's going to heat up pretty quickly, and it's going to be a bit of a fight all night long. I think we're going to see the top line prevail as usual around Bristol, but if you want to pass anybody, you're going to have to find something to make it work, maybe on the bottom, maybe in the middle. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely, and I was about to ask you about that because the top line's been the preferred line for a majority of the field, whether it's been an open or fixed set. It is a fixed set race tonight, which can make it difficult for passing. What's the best way to pass, in your opinion, here, especially if you, say, don't have the track position or the pace to get in, say, the top 10 in the practice board so far?
Well, it's generally really, really difficult to pass around this track, and a lot of the time I find it's sometimes better to try and force mistakes than it is to necessarily pull off a pass. And especially if you're in a group of cars, if, say, you're in a line of 3 or 4 and the leader of the line is not going so fast, but you're second in line, if you go down to the bottom and you can't execute that pass, then it's quite likely you're going to lose the other 2 spots and go to the tail end of that line. So really the best way I find is you can try and get a run off of 4 by, if you can offset your car just a little bit higher than they can, you can sort of frighten them a little bit and get a really good run, and then maybe pull quite an aggressive slider into 1, and I think that's probably how we're going to see a lot of passes completed.
I think potentially as well, and that has the risk, though, of causing potential trouble. In your opinion, what's the best way to keep your car clean for tonight so you get to the finish?
Well, the best place to be around here is definitely always in the lead, but as we can see out in practice, there's quite a high chance that you're going to run into the tail end of the line at some point. It's really, really short in terms of lap time, so lapped cars are basically a problem the entire race, especially in a long race, especially if it goes green. So you've got to be really careful if you're the leader working through those, and if you're not the leader, then especially on restarts, you've got to be extremely careful because it's very, very easy for there to just be a stack up where there's an attempted pass and it checks up both lanes or even lane, and then you're in it before you know it.
Yeah, there was one event where we seen the entire field of 16 trucks on one broadcast that at the time was on RaceBond, where the whole field got involved. Hopefully we don't see a similar situation tonight. But Adam Eisenhower's on top of the practice board with a 14.770. Pat Harvey, Rachel Hunt, James O'Brien, Josh Colley, your top 5. Your points leader, Richard Regan Jr., is in 6th on the board, with Robert Melican. One of the first times we see him this season, he's inside the top 10. Hancho Silva and Scotty Johnson round out the top 10 as practice comes to a close. And this is now one of the more important qualifying sessions of the season, because track position, as we talked about just moments ago, going to be crucial with the difficulty to pass.
Well, track position is going to be crucial, but as well, pit stall is going to be crucial too. You only have 22 on the front stretch, so if you're outside of that top 22, you start to fall into that backstretch pit stall, and as we've seen in the NASCAR series, that's a place you really don't want to be, because you will lose spots every single pit stop. So it's really, you have to be looking to get inside the top 22.
Already just about half the field on the racetrack, including Richard Regan Jr. in the 46 machine. 30 cars currently set for qualifying, trying to battle for those 22 front stretch spots in terms of pit stalls. So let's take a look at some of the times already as some of the drivers finish up their warm-up laps or begin. There's some of them already in the 14.9s on the warm-up and or their first ways around. A 14.8 for Richard Regan Jr., a 14.871 for Jake Honcho, and he's happy with that time. So everyone trying to get in as quick as they can here for qualifying.
Yeah, it surprises me. Nobody's waiting to see if it cools down. Everybody's going immediately, and this is a really high-risk, high-pressure qualifying session because the wall is where you want to be. But obviously, if you pick up that contact 0x or even a 2x, then the lap's invalidated. So it's a very, very difficult qualifying session, this track.
Keep in mind too that the track temperature actually did decrease by 3 degrees from the practice session just moments ago. So these drivers dealing with a cooler racetrack, and already some of them adding 2Xs and slamming into the walls here. In terms of setup, if you've had the chance to feel how this car feels for this week, in your opinion, how does it race on a track such as this for tonight?
Well, it's pretty difficult. The first couple of laps are always difficult, especially with this new V7 tire model. Everybody's kind of... it's a very different feel at the start of a run than it is, say, the mid-run or even the late run, and I think it has a tendency to catch people out. I haven't specifically ran with the Cup car, but I have ran with the Xfinity car, and I know that starting in the bottom lane with that car was very, very difficult, especially the braking going into turn 1. So I wouldn't be too surprised if it was a similar story with this car.
Yeah, it has been that type of situation, even in open racing throughout the entire week here at Bristol Motor Speedway. In terms of drivers to watch, who are we to keep an eye on for tonight's action? Because we're talking through some of the names. Who do you have an eye on for tonight?
Well, obviously we got Richard Regan. He's pretty much been the class of the field, and Dallas Pataska coming back again, so he's not set down too hard a time for qualifying so far. He's currently in 15th, but I think he'll definitely be one to watch on the long runs. And you mentioned before we came on air, Rachel Hunt. The last race we broadcast was Watkins Glen, and didn't seem like too great of a race for her, but we've seen that she's pretty strong on the oval, so it'll be interesting to see if she can get back at the front for this one.
Yeah, she was really good in practice and has been really good at Bristol throughout the entire week for her and her organization in Gen X. As some of the other drivers continue to work their way around the track. Dallas Pataska, at this point, using the time to practice at the moment. He's in 16th position at the moment, make it 17th. Not a good starting position at all. Pat Harvey, meanwhile, had a stellar practice and currently looks to try and match his time in that session. 14th on the board the first time around. Second time around, doesn't even improve his time, so the second fastest car in practice will start in the mid-pack.
And as we see, we've got 22 currently valid times, so those guys are all currently on the front stretch, but we got a lot of people who look like maybe they invalidated their qualifying laps, or they're choosing that they're going to start at the back.
And that's an interesting call because 23 cars have already qualified. 7 drivers yet to record a time. Rachel Hunt trying to move herself up from the top 5. Coming around for the end of the second lap, a 15 flat, a 14.926 is her quickest overall. She's in a good track position situation in the top 5, right alongside Corey Silva with 40 seconds left on the board. What are your keys, though, to come away with the victory tonight?
Well, the big thing is to really survive the start. Obviously, we're going to see a reasonably decent field spread here, and as we talked about a little bit, the tires to the start of a run are a little bit of a handful, should we say, and I think with everybody doing a double file restart in perhaps a sense that they're not used to for a track like this, obviously everybody practices the top line. I think that might catch a few guys out having to run the bottom at the very start of the race.
Amongst the drivers who did not record a time at the moment includes this driver, Robert Bishaw Jr. Going to try and beat the buzzer? No. He's not able to move up the time. 23 cars record times. That means one thing, it's starting grid time. And it's James O'Brien who sets the pole time by 3/1000ths of a second tonight. He'll start alongside the points leader, Richard Regan Jr. Jake Honcho starts in 3rd position tonight in the 2 car with Colton Lane in P4. Rachel Hunt starts in 5th with Corey Silva coming off a 2nd place finish in Michigan inside the top 6. Danny Savente starts in 7th with James Duke having a good qualifying run in P number 8. Brandon Macielewski starts 9th, and Josh Colley rounds out your top 10.
And then just outside the top 10, starting 11th, Robert Milliken, and then Thomas Morris, a driver that I have not seen in this league before, starting 12th, so good showing by him. Brandon Walter and Joshua Daniels will be 13th and 14th. Pat Harvey and Scotty Johnson 15th and 16th. Michael Lordy and Dallas Pataska, we spoke a little bit about him, will be lining up 17th and 18th. And then we've got Adam Zemke. He's starting kind of near the back, but we see that a lot from him, but then he has a tendency to move his way forward, so he'll be a guy to look out for in 19th. And then Josh Slade in 20th.
The Tropicana machine of Charles Sumner starts 21st with Francois Noah starting 22nd. Last qualifier is Jeff Costello. The drivers who didn't record times, some noteworthy ones. Evan Black, Adam Eisenhower, the top car in practice, starts 25th. Mark Persson 26th. Robert Bichon Jr. 27th. Chad Brown, along with Horatio Coquin and Barron Hilton, round out the 30 drivers set to take the grid at Bristol Motor Speedway. Once again, your distance tonight, 165 laps or 1 hour. 0.5 miles is the track distance, and it should be an absolutely interesting and fun one tonight here. What else should we keep in mind before we get the green flag for tonight's action here, Christian?
Well, I think if we do manage to get a long green flag run in, it might be worth checking out in terms of fuel. I think everybody's going to be relatively okay on that. They might be able to do this on a full tank. But we are going to see some comers and goers, especially guys who run really hard with this V7 tire. If anybody tries to get out of the front, they're going to get snapped back pretty quickly. So that's going to be something to watch out for, as well as the lines. I think we're going to see everybody running up at the top of the track as the race goes on. Just seems to be how this tire works. The more rubber goes down on the line, the better it gets. But that's going to make passing very, very difficult.
Yeah, I was about to mention with that, drivers in some official races could make it a full 150 laps on a fuel tank. The problem is, there is the risk of blowing the right front tire, as you discussed there. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the strategy as this race progresses. About a lap and a half before we get the green flag here. Once again, O'Brien will control the field. Regan Jr. will start on the outside for today's action. Christian, should be a fun one.
Oh, definitely. Bristol's always a great race, and I think that's pretty much what I expect to see tonight. I do expect cautions. It's just kind of the nature of the beast with this racetrack, but it normally puts on a really good show, so hopefully we'll have a good race tonight.
Indeed here. Again, keep an eye on some of the drivers such as Dallas Pataska, third in the standings, starting in 18th tonight. Pat Harvey, one of the fastest cars in practice, starts 15th. The fastest car in practice, Adam Eisenhower, starting 25th. As the drivers warm up their tires and get ready to go into the start zone. It is O'Brien in control of the field. Regan Jr. on the outside line. As the green flag waves up at the stand, we're underway from Bristol Motor Speedway, and O'Brien already with tire spin. Regan Jr. to the lead.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of guys on the low line further back were really struggling to get away. There was a little bit of a stack up. I think everybody's okay, but there might be a couple of cars with front damage.
Yeah, that was one of the main things to think about, was some tire spin on that bottom line if you get to the gas too hard. Already, the top two, though, pulled away by 2-3 car lengths as everyone tries to find their way up to the top side. Already, the top 10 and more so have made their way to that top for the moment.
There's a big shuffle immediately to the top. Everybody's up there kind of as we expected, and already the back end of the field is about half a lap behind, so it won't be long before the leaders are reaching those guys to start lapping them.
That's how fast these laps can go. You can see already the distances for the battle for third. Very tight at the moment. Already, Jake Honchell losing grip from the front end by 0.2 of a second a lap. Colton Lane already trying to get by. Rachel Hunt also trying to get a look around the 60 machines to continue to scrap.
Yeah, this is where it gets dangerous, where everybody's stacking up in a line, because everybody knows that the longer they fight, the more it brings other cars from behind into the fight. So if you do want to try and pull off a pass, you've got to be really, really quick about it, and you don't really have a lot of time to mess around before somebody's going to pull a pass on you.
Should note the first car they'll be reaching is Barron Hilton. He smacked the wall hard with the right front and is now off the pace in the 16-second range. There is no fast repairs in this series, So the drivers, if they damage their goods, will have to stick with it. Some cars will have to do it now. Evan Black has spun around for the first caution flag of the night on lap number 7. Let's take a look as it was down the front stretch, and he was stuck on the bottom, ended up making contact with Pilot, who ended up hitting the wall. And Christian, that just looked like car hitting the outside wall, pinballs into the car on the bottom.
Yeah, and it's very, very tight, especially coming off of 4 at this racetrack. If you're on the bottom line, you're always going to try and drift up, and obviously if the top line car hits the wall, it instantly fires them back down the track. And unfortunately for the 92 then, nothing really he could do. He was trying to make some headway on the bottom and just got cleaned out. But it's Bristol. It's not going to be the only damaged car we see tonight, so I think if he keeps going, he'll probably be there. As long as you've still got engine power here, you're generally still in the fight.
Already some cars coming to pit lane, some of them getting damage repaired. Brandon Walter, of course, Elon and Charles Sumner amongst the damaged cars, indoor cars, taking service in these first few laps. Everybody else keeping the track position as to be expected here with 156 laps to go. As you can see how big that hit is on the front nose of Sumner. Big crunch to the orange.
Yeah, he's got a lot of damage on that. He's got front and rear damage, so I suspect he was involved in that stack up on the initial start on the bottom line, but it is Bristol. I don't think it'll hurt him all that much, especially not on a long run, but you definitely don't want damage this early in the race.
At this point, what else did you pick up on in these first few laps of the race? Because it already looked like the top 3 had a good run. End of longest line, by the way, for Brandon Walter.
Yeah, not sure why he's been given an EOL penalty there. We'll have to kind of figure that out. What surprised me was not that everybody went to the top, but how quickly everybody got sort of filtered out into the top line. It was only 7 laps in, and the entire field was on the top, except for maybe 1 or 2 cars.
Indeed, and this is going to make it where it could be where how patient do you end up being to try and make a pass or end up riding behind somebody, because you don't want to end up getting held up and losing tons of time, and then all of a sudden you're a lap down.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing, especially if you're near the end of the line. We saw already that we were only a couple of laps away from having our first lapped car, so it's something that you got to keep an eye on, and even more so really for the guys kind of around the back end of the top 10. Everybody wants to be in the top 10, so if you start getting a bit of a stack up happening, then it's only really a matter of time before there's going to be a bit of contact and there's probably going to be a wreck. So you can't hang around trying to make a pass here. You've got to be pretty assertive with it, and you've got to get it done really, really quickly.
Richard Regan Jr. again is the leader, as now they set up for the 1 to go signal behind the pace car. On the outside line, it'll be James O'Brien. 3rd is Honchell. 4th is Colton Lane. Rachel Hunt, Corey Silva round out the top 6 positions on the circuit. So it's going to be the question. Can Regan Jr. get a good start? Remember, there was a ton of wheel spin on the bottom side to start off this race. And that was one of the main key themes in official races across the iRacing service in fixed races this week. Regan Jr. a good launch. O'Brien, not so much. Huge stack up on the top side as the green flag's out.
Yeah, O'Brien was sleeping there. He got jumped by at least 3 cars, and there's a big stack up behind him as well, so they're going to be really unhappy with him for that.
Dallas Pataska amongst the drivers, severely hurt in that stack up. The front and back ends have significant damage on the 23 machine as everyone tries to find a way back up to the top side in the first 14 laps of this event. Cars continuing to battle it out already, trying to fight on behind. 3rd or 4th rather, James Duke is in front of James O'Brien. Danny Cervantes trying to also make the move, as O'Brien's trying something a little bit different. He's trying to diamond it a bit down to the bottom side off the corner.
Yeah, and a little further back in the line, I saw Josh Cully look like he tried to make a bit of a move work on the bottom, but didn't come off, and he immediately had to get defensive and get back into the top line.
Lane getting a bit tight that time behind Danny Cervantes, meanwhile, as they continue to stay line to stern, running 14 7s to 14 9s throughout the vast majority of the top 10. O'Brien still trying to make the bottom side work, and he gets loose. Into the wall he goes. Second caution flag is out for the night. And O'Brien with significant damage now to his nose.
Yeah, it just looks like there's no grip on that bottom line, and as soon as he went down there, he found that out and nosed into the wall pretty heavily.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this for O'Brien as he was trying to make the bottom work to get by James Duke. Felt like he was getting held up and just, as you said, lost grip on the bottom, especially off of turn 4. Cars have been getting loose there all week.
Seems like with this tire that the primary line gets a lot of rubber put down on it and is very, very grippy, but as soon as you move away from that, everywhere else is very slick, and we've seen it as well at 1.5 miles with, say, the top line as being pretty slick if you're out there on a restart, but it's even worse at a place like this when you need all the grip you can get coming off the corner.
Pit stops underway. Josh Coley into the pits, Brandon Majalewski, as well as Dallas Pataska among them. O'Brien also into the pit lane. So the pole sitter having a rough night so far, but just about everybody else electing to stay on the racetrack. It's going to be interesting to see who can keep the consistency up as the night goes on, or try and build some rather, or try and say overcome damage such as Dallas Pataska.
Yeah, he's got a lot of nose damage that's going to hurt him, but as we said before, it's not everything around this racetrack, and tires is going to be a factor too. Obviously, track position is so important, and I think that's why we see so many people staying out. It is only 20 laps into the race, and we haven't really done that many laps at full speed under green either.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, though, if we get a long run, because that's where I think the best drivers will shine. Right now, Richard Regan Jr., he's been putting up 14.7s at the front of the field. That's up at the elite pace in terms of how the fixed set drives here at Bristol. That's going to be tough to try and keep up with if he continues the pace he's doing.
Yeah, and I think for him being in the lead, really his goal has to be to just kind of hold on to those tires. He really doesn't want to pit if everybody else isn't going to pit, you know, and if he drops back and loses his track position, it's going to really hurt, and he's going to struggle to get it back. So I don't see a huge amount of value in him trying to necessarily build a lead, but maintaining his position at the front of the line is pretty crucial.
That leads to an interesting question, though. Eventually, some of these drivers might have to pit with how many heat cycles are on them. If we keep on having this type of situation where it's caution precautions, do you say, okay, I've had X amount of restarts, it's time to come in?
I think we'll probably see guys starting to think more about pitting after, say, about lap 50. I don't really see a lot of value in anybody coming down, say, in the first 30, unless you have damage. Then it makes sense. You're trying to get all that fixed, and obviously with only a few cars coming down, you can get a little bit more out of those stops. So for those guys, it does make sense, but I think realistically between laps, say, 50 and 100, we're going to see the most pit stops if it continues with this trend of yellows.
Indeed. Richard Regan Jr. again is the control car as we get ready to go back to green. Jake Honcho having a good race so far and a good night overall. Good practice, good qualifying. And NP number 2. Rachel Hunt's up to 3rd. James Duke is still in 4th. Danny Cervantes in 5th. With Colton Lane rounding out your top 6. iRacing official pace car moves its way off of turn 4 to the pit lane. Regan Jr. is off and away. Green flags back out. We're once again racing for Bristol.
Still seeing guys struggling to get away. A couple of guys in the top line there not able to get away. Thomas Morris, a little bit of a poor restart.
And already Rachel Hunt trying to attack for P number 3. James Duke having a good start on the top line. Cervantes now attacking Rachel Hunt. She's stuck on the bottom side. And this could be a problem for the 16 if she can't find a hole.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to try and slot into that gap in front of Colton Lane, but just about open by the time she went up.
Already, some drivers trying the bottom side. Corey Silva tried to go down there. Got a little bit loose. Had to go back up to the top side in front of Thomas Morris. That was near disaster for the 94 machine. So just about the entire top 10 has made their way up to the top side. However, a couple drivers are trying to build that rubber up on the bottom.
You know, see Joshua Daniels, looks like he's trying to run not the very bottom of the racetrack, but say the middle groove, and he's doing okay. He's just about maintaining this position as he moves into the top line.
Still working the way around the racetrack. Trouble for Hill. He's hit the wall on the front straightaway. He's pulled in his car immediately to the pit lane. We stay green. So another car having trouble off the turn 4. Again, we stay green on the racing surface. 136 to go here at Bristol as you follow along with the battles across the field. Some of the drivers still trying to make that bottom side work.
Yeah, see Pataska further back trying to make it work, but not really getting anywhere.
Indeed. As this choo-choo train continues on, Danny Cervantes is currently trying to find a way to close back up to 3rd. James Duke having a stellar race. Started in 8th, up to 3rd. This is his best run of the season. He's trying to keep up with the rest of the top 2.
And it looks like he's opening himself up a little bit of a gap as well, so maybe he'll be one of the first to start moving around the track. With just having a little bit of breathing room allows you just a little more options to try out some different lanes.
At Michigan last race, he had himself a good finish. Good points day overall, getting himself 40 total points with a P3 finish. That was half a second rather behind Corey Silva and Richard Regan Jr. Rachel Hunt, meanwhile, still trying to get the bottom side of work in the battle for 4th position. Still electing to stay back up on the top side for the time being to try and ramp it on down. Driver's getting a little bit antsy here on this top line.
Yeah, Danny Cervantes has hit the wall a couple of times already, and he's looking a little bit uncomfortable out there, and it's building up this little bit of a line behind him.
Eventually, somebody's going to have to try and open up the bottom side. Cervantes slides up a little bit. Rachel Hunt trying to get the run, has the better run, forced to check up though. And Cervantes nearly got loose coming off of turn number 4. This is forcing a stack up with Colton Lane behind him and Corey Silva. Silva nearly took it to the bottom side.
Yeah, Silva's been one of the more aggressive drivers to try and get that bottom lane working. We see him go down there a couple of times. Looks like James Dukes had a little bit of an issue as he's just come back towards this line.
They stay single file once again, but keep in mind there's drivers on different tire strategies. Brendan Macielewski, he's up to P number 18 since that pit stop. We also see Josh Colley in P24, so Macielewski is cutting his way through the field slowly but surely as they work their way around this racetrack.
Yeah, and his goal's got to be to get as many positions as he can before the tires kind of equalize out, and then he's sort of stuck back in the line with the rest of them.
They also have Charles Sumner, who's gotten some repairs just in front of him in P number 17. So the drivers who have made pit stops still about a half of racetrack behind the race leader in Richard Regan Jr., who's up in front by 1.4 seconds over Jake Concho at the moment. 125 laps to go this time by for the car.
The 2 leaders are kind of way out front in their own zip code right now, and then we've got this huge line built up behind James Duke here that looks like it goes all the way back to about 16th place.
Yeah, he's about a 1/10 of a second off compared to the top 2 drivers. And this is going to be where there's the chance of potential danger because somebody's going to attempt to do something at this kind of a choo-choo train as Duke gets tight. Ends up checking up. He's loose off into turn 3 after the contact. Stop to the bottom of the racetrack as they stack up at the bottom. Caution flag is out. Thomas Morris got spun around in the stack up as that was major trouble off the corner. What in the world happened to Duke?
It looked like Duke got up into the wall and he was so close to everybody else that they tried to get around him and they weren't really able to do so, and then a big stack up sort of transferred through the line and then everybody was trying to get out of each other's way.
Yeah, you see right there hitting the car with the right rear, and around goes everyone. Cervantes, no front end on his race car anymore, and they just stacked up with the 18 and a few other drivers after that. Thomas Morris and Robert Milliken, who ended up trying to ride the bottom to avoid all of that, also stacked up. Just bad luck for the 25 in that case.
Yeah, he was just a guy who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Obviously, he was looking pretty good when James Duke hit the wall, and unfortunately, just nowhere for him to go, and he's lost the nose on that car now.
Taking one more look, and you see what the stack up, just contact with the 69 machine. that's what triggers the caution flag in the end there. So that in turn means the strategy window is open in this PRL Cup Series race sponsored by Diecast Kings. Drivers have elected to pit. A vast majority, if not the entire field, has come down, except for Dallas Bateska. Everybody else has elected to come down and get their 4 tires.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Pataska was waiting until he was at the pace car there so that he'll get a little bit more repairs. But it does look like everybody pitted.
We did have Jeff Costello stay out to get the bonus point for the lead lap in the Iron Maiden machine. So that car rocking its way out in front for the time being, but everybody else took 4 tires. We did have a strategy call, though, in a couple cases. Check that. There was a couple who took 2, pardon me. There was Robert Bichon Jr. and Josh Colley, who had 9-second pit stops, Christian.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting call at this point in the race. It might work out for them. Obviously, we've seen track position is really king here and not so much outright raw pace in the car. I'm surprised that Bichon Jr. has actually cycled up as high as he has, up in the 7th place there. And Josh Colley's pit stop is a little bit strange because it's now disappeared from the list, so I'm not entirely sure what's gone on with his there.
Right now, they are still lined up behind this pace car. So this could get interesting to see what happens here with this race now as everyone's rebunched up. Rachel Hunt in that sequence moved herself up into net P3 and P4 at the moment. So that's a good situation for her. Corey Silva potentially inside the top 5 now with this cycle.
Yeah, and Corey Silva's been looking really promising. He's been one of the few guys who's not necessarily been able to pull a pass off on the bottom of the racetrack, but it looks like he's been able to run it a little better than other people around him, and he's not lost any positions doing so.
Interesting situation. The 09 has not come down yet. He has had service done on that race car, and he will stay out to be the race leader for the restart. So this is going to get interesting. Right now, he is one of the only cars not to have 4 tires. He started in 23rd. He'll bring them to the green flag. Interesting situation, Christian.
Yeah, this is going to be really difficult for everybody on the bottom line to handle. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for Jeff Costello as well. He's going to have to manage a lot of wheel spin as he gets away here. So I don't suspect we'll see guys staying in the bottom lane for long. I think we'll see everybody try and get into the top as fast as possible to try and get around him.
Green flag is out. Costello with a good launch as he tries to get himself up to the top side. Regan Jr., though, on the fresher tires, getting the run, gets to his outside to take the race lead back. Costello staying to the bottom as the fresh tires drive on the outside. Rachel Hunt to second. Caution flag is out once more in the back of the field. James Duke around.
Yeah, we got a car around in the middle of the backstretch. That is James Duke.
Second caution involving him, and this time it wasn't his fault. Baron Hilton actually hit the wall and doored him around for the caution flag.
Yeah, we've seen that happen once already this race. It's not really surprising that we're going to continue to see that throughout the night, but it's always unfortunate for the car that's on the bottom that kind of gets involved in that, because they're actually normally the one that comes off the worst.
Yeah, just nothing where James Duke can do there as the contact happened. As you can tell, James Duke was just trying to ride along, seen the car getting tight, and then the car gets tighter to his right, and boom, into the wall goes the 76 machine. So Jeff Costello has pit with this caution flag, we should note, and there is 115 to go. Already, we've gone through about 20 minutes on the clock, we should note, so this could get interesting in terms of how the end of the race should go here. But this all means Regan Jr., Hunt, Honchell, Silva, and Lane are your top 5, Christian.
Yeah, and I think at this point, if it continues with this trend, we're definitely looking at a timed race. It was pretty impressive to see everybody, for the most part, doing a good job there to get around the Iron Maiden machine. I was actually surprised that Jeff didn't make the decision to go up into the top lane. He was actually clear in a 1, but I think he realized with his offset in terms of tires that he was never really going to be able to hold on to the lead.
Already in about 4 caution flags, if my count is right, for tonight so far. And at this point, how difficult does that make you out? make it as a driver to try and game plan how you want to approach the rest of the race?
It makes it very difficult to commit to making any pit stop of any kind as long as you're good on fuel, because there's so little running under green, so you're not really stressing the tires out too much. But as you mentioned, you are heat cycling them a lot, and it does get to a point where they just kind of they run out of anything left, and it makes the restarts pretty slippery, and you kind of struggle from that point on. But at the same time, you're going to be reluctant to pit because we've seen a lot of the guys who maybe had a little bit of misfortune who then ended up back in the pack. They're then involved in further incidents, so you don't want to pit at all if you can help it. And I think for a person like Richard Regan Jr., he's kind of in a bad spot, because the later we get in the race, the more cars we're probably going to see chancing it staying out. So if he makes the decision to come down and say 10, 15 cars behind him don't, then he's in a real bind, because he's going to have to get his way through those cars on old tires, cleanly on restarts, and that's going to be a real challenge.
One to go signal, it appears, on the pace car. Yes, indeed, as Regan Jr. makes his way to the bottom. Rachel Hunt will start on the top side, and we'll see how Rachel Hunt can attack this start. Honcho will start in third. Fourth, Corey Silva, while Lane and Bichon Jr. on those two tires round out the top six. So buckle up, folks, once again as we get all set to go racing here at Thunder Valley. Regan Jr. rolls them slowly behind the iRacing official pace car. The Folds of Honor, Toys for Tots machine. Hits the loud pedal, green flags out. We're back to racing at Bristol. Clean start for the top five as they already make their way to the top side. Lane keeps himself inside the top five.
A good restart by Hunt as well to maintain that second position.
Bunch of drivers, though, trying to work their way from the bottom to the top side. Should note the 93 machine is on the move. Remember, Brandon Magaleski was amongst the drivers who pit for fresh tires a few cautions ago. He's now up inside the top 10 in heat number 9, watching along just behind the top 5.
He's done a good job because he cycled himself well back into the pack, and now to be back up to effectively right where he started is a pretty good accomplishment, especially in his few laps as we've had under green.
Taking a look at one of the skid mark machines. This is Pat Harvey, also has been on the move. He started in 15th, now inside the top 10 for one of the first times tonight. So the 67 machine finding some good pace. Last time by was amongst some of the fastest cars, a 14.985. That was about a 10th off the race leader.
Yeah, and I was a little bit skeptical of the two-tire call by Bissell Jr., but at the moment it looks like it's paying off. He's running solidly in 6th place.
Let's take a look. He is under attack at the moment in 6th position. That's where cars are starting to stack up a little bit. Robert, or Melican, is trying to get on by that 97 machine, but again, the caution flag is out here at Bristol. It's a car on the front stretch. It's Baron Hilton. The Rescue Racing machine has no more front play. And let's take a look on board here as Hilton having some trouble here, Christian.
Yeah, he's been having a bit of a rough night the whole time, and as we see him here going into 1. Looks okay at the moment. He's in the middle groove and then just pushes up into the outside wall. I don't think that's the first time he's done that tonight, so he's probably pretty frustrated with himself right now.
Yeah, it's been a rough one, unfortunately, for him, but it bunches everyone back up again with 103 laps to go here, and really it continues to help the case for the 97 machine of Robert Bichon Jr., because that Skid Mark Motorsports machine still holding on for 2 tires just as he starts to come under attack. Caution flag has come out, and that's kind of actually helping him more than hurting him.
Yeah, absolutely. The longer they can go, especially in the yellow, to kind of equalize out everybody's tires, the less that disadvantage, so to speak, becomes. And sooner or later, he's going to end up on effectively the same tires as the guys around him. And I think he gets one more yellow pretty quickly after this, and really any disadvantage he would have had is completely negated.
Lucky dog on this caution flag is James O'Brien. He was 3 laps down. For O'Brien, it's been a rough one. He was one of the top drivers so far this season for Road Trip Transport's sponsored machine. But it's been a rough one here at Bristol since hitting that wall with the left front.
Yeah, and he's probably going to be pretty disappointed as well. Obviously started on the pole, so to be 2 laps down when it looked like he had a chance of winning the race is not what he was going for tonight.
Everyone's still lined up behind the pace car here once more as we get ready for another restart. Already up to 5 or 6 caution flags for tonight's racing action. And what else has caught your eye tonight, other than the strategy and, of course, the caution precautions? What's caught your eye in terms of performance?
Well, the biggest thing seems to be, obviously, everybody tries to get to the top as fast as they can, but the guy that I've kind of been focusing on a lot is Corey Silva. He looks definitely to be one of the more aggressive guys to try and make the bottom line work, and I keep hoping to see maybe he gets a little bit of a better restart and maybe able to jump up in 3rd place, because I'd love to be able to see what he would do on a restart from the bottom lane. I think he'd have a decent chance at maybe cycling himself even further forward, so I'm keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, I would too at this point. I'm also keeping an eye on Majaleski at this point, who's now in 8th position with that caution flag. Has a good chance to try and attack for more positions in that 93 machine. So it's going to be curious to see how those two drivers try and charge. They're both, mind you, on the top side for this upcoming restart. iRacing official pace car, lights are out. Richard Regan Jr., again, in control of the field. And it has been a strong campaign overall when you look at it so far. Coming away with 2 of the first 3 victories. Looking like he's going to have another good points day if he can keep this car clean, not to jinx him.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for him. And we've seen he's a smart driver in terms of when it comes to point racing. As we saw at Watkins Glen, he knew he didn't have the pace to challenge Pataska for the win, but still came away with the 2nd place. So I think he'll keep himself clean even if he does drop out of the lead.
He's in control of the field as the iRacing official pace car makes its way off. Green flag is back out. We're racing once more at Bristol. Regan Jr. with a massive launch this time up to the top side as Rachel Hunt already under attack by multiple drivers trying to make the bottom side work. Including Hunt though as the caution comes out. That was a quick one as this time it's the back of the field. Joshua Daniels involved in this one, making contact with Jeff Costello down the back straightaway.
Yeah, that was a big stack going into 3 right there. There's a lot of cars involved.
Overlapping, you got involved as well. Josh Coley barely avoided that one, mind you, too.
Yeah, it looked like just 2 got together in the middle of the backstretch, and then, unfortunately for the guys behind, that's really hard to avoid because everybody's obviously up to full speed coming off of turn 2. And there's not really much you can do other than try and drive completely under it on the apron.
That's what Coley tried to do, and it was a terrifying one because he knew he spun the car out while doing so.
He did a really good job to get around that, though. I thought for sure he was going to be in that, so that was a great job by him.
Yeah, at first glance, I was thinking he was doing a 4-tire drift to try and get around that. But now, again, yellow flag, 96 laps to go. And should note, Bichon Jr., he lost 6th position with the timing of the caution flag. He's now cycled to the bottom, so at this point with those 2 tires, what do you think's going through his head?
Well, that's really not what he would have wanted. Obviously, being in the top lane, it's the place to be in terms of a defensive line. So now him starting on the bottom, he's probably going to be equalized out relatively closely, but he might have just a little bit more wheel spin. And obviously everybody around him knows that he's like the guy on 2 tires, so nobody's really going to cut him any brakes to get back in the line because they're all going to think that they've got better tires than he does. So he's going to have to get back to the top line as quickly as he can.
Yes, indeed. And among some of the storylines again we've been keeping up with tonight, Dallas Pataska is in P number 17. For Dallas Pataska, what do you think's going through his head as that dynamic auto sports machine not having a pretty night at all?
Yeah, I think all this kind of stemmed from what looked to be a lack of time in the practice session, and that kind of transferred through to starting near the back, and he obviously was involved in a wreck pretty early on. So it's really not been a great night for him, and at this point I imagine he's just out there trying to pick up some points, but it's going to be difficult for him to really move forwards. Obviously he's got that nose damage that's not going to help him, but these yellows are not helping him either, because his strength's really going to be on a long run, and we've not had any long runs.
And mind you, he's got front end and back end damage still that he's been trying to repair on some of these caution flags, but has still gained one position from where he initially started. Yeah, that's a nasty jag inside that radiator pan, to say the least, or jagged edge, rather.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be helping him out. And being back there, he's right behind a lot of these incidents that we're seeing as well, so he's having to avoid those, and that's not going to be helping him.
Regan Jr. in control of the field still as we get the 1-to-go signal. Everybody doubling them up. Falling on board with some of the cars as they get ready for this restart. Some of the drivers looking to make sure they know who's in front, who's beside, who's behind. Now for Regan Jr., he looks to try and put all of them back in the dust once more. The 46 machine off and away. Green flag is out. We're once again racing from Bristol, Tennessee. And a good start again for your race leader. But Rachel Hunt able to attack the top along with Corey Silva.
Yeah, it looks like Hunt's restarts aren't actually that good, but because it's keeping the top line packed up, it's stopping Hansel.
Oh, trouble! Car around hard into the wall. Caution flag is out once again. Josh Slade now slides. Michael Lortai with significant damage from the caution flag. He's the car that ended up going around. He ended up having contact with Adam Zepke off the corner.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. A lot of the two of them kind of just clipped together on the backstretch, and then they sort of bounced off each other and went for a really big ride. Lordy did.
Yeah, Lordy taking a big amount of contact, but Tasca also adding a bit more. Let's take a look on board though with Zepke to see what happened from his angle. And you have to wonder if he just pushed up just that little extra bit and that caused that.
Yeah, it definitely didn't look like there was a lot of initial contact, so to speak, but obviously the resultant wreck was pretty big. So really big damage for Lordy there. He went for a big spin along the barrier, and obviously we saw Pataska there got clipped, it looked like, by either Lordy or Zemke, and didn't really hit the wall, but had a big drift into turn 3.
So that again brings out the caution flag, and another quick one to say the very least. So everyone will get a chance to breathe here. 25 minutes to go up on the clock, by the way, with 89 laps to go up on the lap ticker. So it continues to be an interesting scenario. Bijan Jr. back up to the top side with a caution flag. Majelecki to the bottom side, for example, and P8 and 9. And all of this is going to make it where people might be a bit aggressive to try and charge onto the corner. Others, they're electing to go maybe get some repairs done, such as Eisenhower.
Yeah, and I think from this point forward, we're going to see people definitely dial up the aggression on the restart. Obviously, we've now got a couple of different guys cycled into the bottom lane. I've got my wish Corey Silva's going to be starting third, so I'll be interested to see what he can do from there. But it is an interesting dynamic that the lines kind of keep flipping over every now and again, because we do see some guys out there who are definitely better in one line or the other.
And you can see how much, too, there's so much banking at this racetrack. Again, 26 to 30 degrees. 30 degrees, the highest amount of banking here. Have you ever thought about going bowling here like they did back in the mid-2000s in the TNT and NBC broadcast?
I haven't, but speaking of the banking, it does make the track extremely quick. And that's why it's so difficult to avoid a wreck if it's happening right in front of you, because when you're in the turns, because of how high the banking is, it's actually kind of difficult to see maybe beyond like 4 or 5 car lengths in front of the car. And so as soon as you kind of pop up out of the corner, you can see the whole straightaway, but if something's happened on corner exit, you're probably not seeing it until you get there. And with the speeds being so high, it's genuinely extremely difficult to avoid anything. And that's why when we see in these wrecks, we're seeing people piling in afterwards, and people are probably wondering, well, like, can't you see it happening? And well, no, the answer is you kind of can't.
that's where that truck incident was referring to came into play, because it was on the corner exit. And now the drivers get the one-to-go signal and get ready to exit their way off of turn 4 when the green flag flies. Regan Jr. is in control of the field. Hunt in second. Silva and Honchell, row 2. Lane and Melican in row 3. Johnson and Bichon Jr. round out the top 8. Off and away they go. Green flags back out once more.
Good start by Hunt on the top. Might clear second onto the backstretch.
Yes, indeed. And Lane nearly lost the car on the bottom side. A bit of a stack up now as Honchell really checked up on the top side. Nearly making contact with the 18.
Yeah, it looked like there might have been a little bit of contact with Corey Silva on entry there and really threw the 2 car out of balance.
And now they're really stacking up. One car hits the wall hard. It's Scotty Johnson. He checked up. Majaleski, meanwhile, is stuck on the bottom side just in front of all this. So everyone trying to find their way in towards a good rhythm spot. Taking a look from Scotty Johnson's point of view right now. He's in P number 9. He made contact again with that outside wall a little bit. He's behind the first driver on 2 tires in Bichon Jr. Scotty Johnson trying to go as hard as he can. So far, a +7 for him, Christian.
Yeah, he's having a pretty good night. Obviously picked up a little bit of damage there, but doesn't look like it's hurting him too much. We see at Bristol, the guys pretty regularly will grab that outside wall at some point, so it's not a huge deal, but obviously not what he wanted, and probably a pretty frightening moment for him.
And is that who I think it is just behind them? Yes, indeed, that's Danny Cervantes with no front end in P number 10. He is still inside the top 10 despite having no front bumper.
As a driver we see very aggressive normally on the restarts, and he's making this work. Obviously he's got a little bit of a line maybe starting to form behind him without that nose, but doing a solid job to get that modified car into the top 10.
Yeah, it has been interesting the night for him so far, to say the very least. But despite the front end, they're doing well at this point. Back up towards the front we go. One of the first battles is toward P number 6 because Majaleski is trying the bottom side. Corey Silva also trying that same line at the moment up on your screen.
Yeah, Majaleski is doing a really good job, and he's obviously been moving up through the field the whole night, but even for him it looks like it's pretty difficult to get the bottom line working and to get passes going up into the top 5.
Yep. Same thing with Silva, who's trying the same thing as we just seen there. We go back towards Majaleski. He's committed to that line towards the middle to bottom because in the springtime and in the summertime with the V6 model, you can make that work. In fact, it was the best way to save tires. Not so much in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of changed the dynamic of this racetrack a little bit. Obviously, in the past, we've seen drivers able to make the bottom and the middle lines work, and it's a little bit safer to run those lines as well. You don't have the risk of running into the wall, but with how the current V7 tire model is working, being outside of the rubbered in line is definitely not beneficial.
Indeed, you can see just how much he's been trying to make it work. It's just not going so far. But the driver that has been going, you've been seeing some purple lap times pop up on the right side of your screen. Richard Regan Jr. He's pulling away by a 1/10 of a second a lap in the 46 machine. That Folds of Honor Toys for Tots machine is on rails to get away from the pack.
Yeah, I thought he might be saving a little bit because obviously being the leader, he's not really got a lot to gain, and especially if we see another yellow, but it looks like he's decided that his best plan tonight is to just get out ahead, and hopefully then when he gets in traffic, he's got a little bit of a buffer that he can work with when he gets around him.
One of the longest green flag runs of the night so far, as they continue to keep up a rhythm. Again, one of the more intense fights could come down to lap traffic management, a bit dicey for P number 3. You see that stack up a little bit up on your screen. The 09 machine of Costello staying on the top side. And this is now the first time we get to discuss this. Lap traffic could be huge at this track if it's not on the lane you want it to be.
Yeah, obviously with everybody running the top, it would be pretty normal to see the lap cars kind of stay to the bottom, but they're not obligated to do so, and every now and again you'll find guys who would rather stay on their line and make you work their own way around them, and they're perfectly entitled to do that, but it does make it tricky, especially if you're used to running that top and suddenly you're forced to run either the middle or the bottom.
That actually helped Matt Zaleski get himself up to 6th position because he was committed to the bottom, was trying to make the pass, was side by side. Then they reached the 09 machine, and it forced Robert Milliken to check up on the top side. Now the 93 machine, he's off and running away, trying to dive in the corner on the exits at the moment to catch up to Colton Lane.
Yeah, and I think if he can get up to Lane, he's probably got a good shot at maybe getting as high as 3rd place here, because it looks like, well, maybe even 2nd place. It looks like Rachel Hunt's coming back a little bit towards Corey Silva.
Yes, indeed. Right now, you can see the interval, meanwhile, for that battle to get to the top 5. It's currently 1.1 seconds, but it is coming down a little bit. It's each and every lap. This is a track where it's not as simple as, I got a chance to get a run, boom, I can make a pass in one corner. It takes multiple laps to prepare a pass and set things up here at Bristol.
Yeah, with the laps being so short, it really is kind of, I normally allocate maybe 10 laps or so to pass one car. It really does take that long to set it up.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat as well on a personal note. But these drivers trying to do the same thing. They're starting to see Silva drop off a little bit. Right now, Rachel Hunt pulling away by about 4 or 5 car lengths away from 3rd, 4th, and 5th in that choo-choo train. The train is also starting to build up for 13th as well, and it's really starting to get congested a little bit because right now, some of the drivers getting very aggressive. Right now, this is 14th Mark Herzog. Right now, at the back of the line, Josh Slade and Josh Coley made contact in the corner and squeezed each other into the wall. Nearly.
And this is the big danger when you start getting these lines forming, because obviously then you've got people within the line who are trying to make up positions, but a lot of the time there's nowhere to go, and you do see these incidents where you get car-to-car, well, side-to-side contact with everybody trying to move their way forwards.
He actually did make the contact in the double checking of things on the left rear of that 34 machine. And this time, Slade going to let him go as the caution flag is out. It's a big one. Scotty Johnson involved. We also have one more car stopped in the racetrack. That's Dallas Bataska again involved.
Not sure what went down here, but again, cars going around on the entry to 3 suggests there was some contact on the straightaway beforehand.
It was the battle for P11, and it looked like trouble off a corner exit. You see Johnson was slow on the corner before trying to fight, and it got worse. Man, Dallas Bataska having some bad luck tonight.
Yeah, he's having a rough night. Now we're seeing the rear panels missing off the car as well, so definitely picked up a significant amount more damage there.
69 machine also getting some contact in that. That's Thomas Morris. We also had Mark Herzog, who was a part of that choo-choo train we were just referring to, involved. Yeah, Johnson just mows down the wall off the corner, and the field ends up having to check. So back under the caution flag here at Bristol Motor Speedway. 57 laps to go on the track and closing down. So it's quickly burning on by as the leaders have elected to pit. They're already off and away a majority of the race cars. So some of them taking what could be the last service of the night.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see anyone, well, anybody who's in the top 5 to pit another time now after this. We've seen obviously a couple of guys have only pitted once or twice all night, so I think it's pretty unlikely that we'll see them come down again at this point.
And you can see some of the drivers making their way off the back straightaway. So take Bishaw Jr. He was one of the drivers who tried 2 tires before. Now loses a lot of the track position because, as you mentioned, the back straightaway, you end up having a lot of potential of lost positions, as much as 5 to 10 minimum a stop.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate for him because it was a really good call and it was working out very, very well for him to take that 2-tire stop, but obviously at this point he felt that he needed 4 to the end and he's dropped down to 13th place, so that backstretch pit is not where you want to be, and that's why qualifying's so crucial at this track.
Yes, indeed, so far, and has definitely been. Two drivers looking to take waves, James Duke and James O'Brien. For O'Brien, this would get him to 1 lap down, potentially. For James Duke, would put him to 4 laps down on the racetrack. But Corey Silva, still in 3rd. Honchell, still in 4th. Lane in 5th. Matt Jaleski, though, is in 6th, and I'm curious to see what the 93 machine could do in that SimSport machine.
Yeah, I think with him having the top lane as well, that gives him a great opportunity to get by some of those guys starting on the bottom, like Corey Silver, if he can't force his way up into the top. So I think it'll be a car to watch, the 93 going from this point.
Already, some of the drivers preparing their different lines for this upcoming start as the wave arounds come aboard, and the 1 to go signal is on the racetrack. Should note, just 12 minutes and 34 seconds in closing up on the clock. So this could get tight. The laps do quickly click on by, but it's the matter of having green ones. Many drivers still on the lead lap, 20 in total, as Regan Jr. brings them down into turns 3 and 4. Once again, his Ford Mustang will get the green flag, powers his way off the corner. Once again, we're racing once more from the world's fastest half mile.
And good restart by everybody there. It didn't look like anybody really struggled to get away. Corey Silver falling back a little bit there. Pushed up on the exit of 2s, dropped down to 3rd.
And Scotty Johnson was way off, all the way to the apron. Josh Coley nearly got loose in the back end as well. So both of those cars still stay going and stay straight. We stay green. For the worst start out of the field, Corey Silva. He's getting freight trained up on the top side of the moment.
Yeah, it looked like it was a really good restart for him initially coming off of 2, but then he just got tight and had to back way out of it, and then everybody on the top lines just trained past him.
All the way back to P number 6 he went from that start, in from that bubble. So now it's going to be difficult to get those positions back once more, because that puts him right where he started the race for primetime racing.
Just seeing Robert Bissau Jr. had a big moment in 3 and 4 that lap. He's lost a lot of spots. He was completely sideways through 3 and 4.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this one. Break this on down here, because that could have been close.
And you see he gets into the corner and he's looking okay. Then kind of coming around to the exit, he was fine there. And then the next time he goes down to the bottom, and you can immediately see the back of the car starts to get away from him. 4-wheel slide all the way to the pit exit cone, but gathers it back up and gets back going.
So able to keep it green for the time being, with 43 laps to go. And there's a nice little battle right in front of him at the moment that's starting to heat up a little bit. Those cars battling at the moment. Chad Brown, that's Rorty. We also have Josh Slade and Danny Cervantes that are all dicing their way forward. Some of these cars look like modifieds more than cup cars at the moment.
Yeah, this is definitely the battle for the modified class lead that we've got going on here. All these guys have been involved in a number of incidents throughout the night, but good to see them still out here and actually still on the lead lap.
So Danny Cervantes is up to 12th position here, and Lorty still trying to get something going in this fight for 13th now. P4 is also heating things up right now. That's where Colton Lane is at. Brandon Macielewski saying hello in the back mirror at the moment.
And this is something we expected to see with Macielewski. He's obviously been moving his way through the field all night, but now pretty difficult as he gets into the top 5 to continue passing these guys. And Colton Lane having a really good race. Last season we obviously saw him having quite a few issues, a lot of unfortunate wrecks and so on, but running 4th tonight, so a good run for him.
Yeah, the American Breadcrumb Company machine has kept it very clean and very consistently inside the top 5 all night long. And already is starting to pull away once more from the 93 machine. 38 laps to go, 9 minutes up on the clock, give or take. So not a lot of time left to make some moves here potentially.
Yeah, we see the leaders actually nearing the back end of the line as well.
Team number 10 really heating things up. Evan Black side by side with Pat Harvey. And Danny Cervantes has reeled these drivers in as they have battled. And the more you go side by side, even with the top line advantage, it does slow both of you up potentially by at least a tenth or two a lap. Harvey gets loose on the bottom side. He'll lose one spot to Cervantes as he goes by on the top side.
Yeah, now I'll be interested to see if Cervantes can get that modified up into the top 10 here. He's only got one more spot to go.
And right now, Black a little bit loose off the corner. Danny Cervantes still looking like he's got a lot of speed despite the aerodynamics. Here comes Harvey up on the top side to make it a fight once more. He powers his way up alongside the wall, smacks it as Cervantes gets loose.
Yeah, and it looks like Pat Harvey actually does have the most speed out of these three cars, but none of them can pass Evan Black. He's just running the top, and they can't get around him on the bottom.
Looks like he's got the run off the bottom side, though, as Black got a bit tight. So Evan Black is looking really tight. There is aero damage along the right side. He drops down to 11th position, now under attack for that spot by Danny Cervantes.
You see Pat Harvey was actually one of the first drivers to make a successful pass on the bottom of the track, but you can see everybody who's going a lane lower, especially on corner entry, you're seeing them slide the rear tires a lot, and that's just giving you a good idea of how big a difference in grip there is between the top and even the middle of the racetrack.
And it almost looks like the 25 is also getting tight along with that 92, having to check off the gas a few times as well in this. This is all allowing a couple other drivers to enter the fight. Here comes the 34 of Slane now into the picture. Shot Jr. and Josh Colley is also closing in and quick.
Yeah, it looks like Cervantes is starting to run out of tire at this point, and now his damage is really starting to hurt him. Even though he has the top lane, he's not able to fend these guys off.
This is going to get very dicey for a few of these positions here. This fight's going on. Second is also starting to heat up as Cervantes hits the outside wall, loses one spot, make it a couple. As that slows him up a little bit. Ends up setting up B-Shot Jr. for the attack, but up at the front, Rachel Hunt. Honchell is closed up, as well as Colton Lane and Brandon Magaleski and Corey Silva. They are all on the back bumper of that white and pink machine.
It's a 5-car battle for second place now, and it's only going to get more challenging for them as they start moving their way through lap traffic.
Yeah, the lap traffic very cordial so far, moving to the bottom side, but at the moment, the corner exit is where they have the better runs. Honchell has been getting good corner exits. He's just not been willing to risk it yet.
Well, that's the thing, with everybody stacked up so closely behind him, if he does go for the move and it doesn't come off, he's going to probably cycle all the way back to 6th place.
Yeah, absolutely here, as Hunt still continues to defend. Honcho this time has to get off the gas. Lane still waits on in the wings. As all of this is going on, they are running 15 2s and 3s. The leader in Richard Regan Jr., by the way, is in the 15-1 still, so something's got to give.
And they're soon going to be approaching a lot of lap traffic. Regan Jr. is just making his way through it right now. You see they're about half a straightaway behind it, but they're going to be up on it pretty soon, probably within the next 5 to 10 laps.
20 laps to go this time by for the race leaders. As the caution flag has come out, it's down the back straightaway. Costello involved, Josh Slane involved, as this will stack everyone up, and this changes everything.
This is not what Regan Jr. wanted to see. He was well out front.
Taking a look at the 09 machine, as he had something happen where he was reeled in and quick. That was that battle we were talking about with Coley, with Bisson Jr. and wow.
It looked like he just got incredibly tight, and obviously with those cars stacked so closely behind him, they couldn't really do a lot to get around him.
He is a lap car, no. In the 20s in positions, that was the battle going on for what was around P13, 14. Wow. So that brings up the caution flag, and now the timer is now a worry because there's under 4 minutes estimated left to go.
And it becomes a big challenge now as to what you do, especially for tires. I think the guys at the front, we're going to see them stay out
Oh, and we had Regan Jr. pit. The 46 pit. No one else came with him. So this is huge. The race leader, who's led the most laps, ended up pitting. No one else followed.
I'm so surprised he pitted. I hadn't even seen that he'd come down right there. I honestly can't understand the logic of why he's made the decision to do that. He had the pace on everybody, and everybody else was staying out. Now, obviously, when you're the leader, you kind of always have that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't scenario where if you pit, they'll stay out, and if the opposite is true as well. But at the same time, with it being so close on the timer, I would have taken my chances on staying out there, even with everybody else having fresh tires.
I'm thinking more so, yes, he'd still likely have a good points day, or a decent one at least, with the most led laps, but you're racing for the win. There's still 13 laps to go technically, even with the timer. Now, even with the risk of tire spin, Rachel Hunt is the race leader.
Yeah, I don't see how he's going to make up any positions from this at all. I think it'd be a challenge for him to even get into the top 10.
This has changed just about everything. And now becomes the question, how does this start go? Because now you have Regan Jr. on fresh tires, what will be about P15 on the track, make it P14 as he goes around the 21 machine, but you also have to think about the massive tire spin potentially coming up.
Yeah, there's going to be a monstrous amount of tire spin. Obviously, that was one of, if not the longest green flag run that we'd had, so I suspect a lot of people are going to really, really struggle to get away on here. And the other question is how many laps we're going to have when we go back green.
Now that is the main thing, with about a minute and 35 seconds on the clock. The lights are out on top of the pace car. This could be a sprint to the finish. This will be very interesting, especially with the tire spin. To recap the top 5, it's Rachel Hunt, Jake Hodgson, Brandon Majelecki, Colton Lane in the top 4 positions. Corey Silva rounds out the top 5. And don't forget Mark Herzog, he's plus 20 in P number 6. So Rachel Hunt gets ready to bring them to the green flag as we're off and away, racing once more at Bristol. 1 minute left on the clock.
So about 4 to 5 laps at most here. We see Colton Lane running the bottom. Whether he's going to, well, he's dropping back from second now. It looked like he might be able to hold on to it.
Still fighting hard for second. Rachel Hunt holds on to the lead. Honcho up to second. Third, Majelecki. Down to the final seconds of the clock as Lane gets himself up to the top line. This race has gotten really interesting in the final few moments of this one. Rachel Hunt in a great position to try and take the checker.
And Regan Jr. hasn't gone anywhere at all. He's still scored in 13th right now, so that move for tires has just not paid off.
2 to go at the line, estimated now for Rachel Hunt. Final seconds up on the board. Rachel Hunt. She's had a good season, a rough one at Watkins Glen, but has been stellar on the ovals. The Gen X driver will get the white flag this time by. Time has run over the clock. This is the last lap. Jake Hodgson trying to go for one last gas. Majelecki falls behind. Going for one last send. Can the two make it stick? Gets the one. Rachel Hunt still takes the checkered flag, and she'll do it while sliding. Rachel Hunt wins it at Bristol. Wow. What a finish to this one, Christian.
Yeah, that was a wild way for that to end, and I don't think Rachel Hunt expected to be the leader on that last restart. Regan Jr., that just did not work out at all. Comes home 11th, and we saw a lot of movement for the top 5 as well. Mark Herzog managed to sneak into the top 5 on the very last lap.
What a way to win a race tonight. Rachel Hunt is your winner in the Emerald Coast Coins Toyota Camry. With that, we'll take a step aside. When we come back, we'll have post-race coverage. You're watching the PRL Cup Series here from Bristol Motor Speedway. That's a way to finish a race, to say the very least. Welcome back, everyone, to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the PRL Cup Series from Bristol Motor Speedway, where tonight, Rachel Hunt came away with the victory in the unlikeliest of situations. A lot to unravel for tonight, but it came down to a side-by-side finish. Jake Hunshell tried to send it hard on the bottom, got a good run, and made contact just after the finish line to finish in second. We'll speak with him after the finish as Brandon Majalewski came home with a top 3 finish behind that. Colton Lane comes home in 4th, started in 4th, and Mark Herzog came home with the top 5 after starting in 26th position. Corey Silva finished in 6th, Robert Melican in 7th position, Thomas Morris, Pat Harvey, and Robert Bichon Jr. rounded out your top 10.
They had Richard Regan Jr., who led almost the entire race, but then made that decision to come down for tires at the very last minute, and nobody else pitted. Comes home in 11th. He's going to be disappointed with that. Josh Colley comes home 12th alongside him. Danny Cervantes, winner of the modified class, in 13th, with Michael Lorty in 14th. And then we had Evan Black in 15th. Adam Zemke comes home 16th. Chad Brown made up 11 spots to finish in 17th from 28th, and Charles Sumner in 18th. Then the first driver a lap down, Scotty Johnson in 19th, and Josh Slade in 20th.
James O'Brien in 21st was the pole sitter before losing grip and crashing in the left side of the car on the inside wall. Finished in 21st. Jeff Costello 22nd, James Duke in 23rd, Dallas Pataska a DNF in 24th. A second rough race in a row for him. Not the way he wanted to go towards the middle portion of the season. Adam Eisenhower in 25th, DNF. Joshua Daniels as well with Baron Hilton. Juan Francois Palat in 28th. Brandon Walter and Horatio Colquhoun round out the 30 drivers who took part in tonight's racing at Bristol. My goodness, what a finish. And I believe we have Rachel Hunt standing by as your race winner. We'll see if we can get Rachel. Rachel Hunt, do you have a copy? Try this again. Rachel Hunt, do you have a copy? One last time. Rachel Hunt, do we have a copy? And apologies for that. We'll see if we can come back to her later on. Once again, Rachel Hunt with the stellar victory tonight was one of the fastest cars. Jake Honcho, though, coming home in second this evening. And what was a crazy finish. We're standing by with Jake. Your fans were following along and cheering as they seen that crazy finish. Jake, how are you feeling after that second place run?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm feeling ecstatic. I haven't had very much luck here in the last couple of months, but that was a very fun race.
Now talk us through the finish, because the clock was winding down. The strategy got very interesting at the front, to say the least, when Richard Regan Jr. elected to pit and no one else followed him. And then it came down to you and Rachel Hunt. Talk us through from your perspective as you came off that final corner.
On the last pit stop, I didn't take as much fuel, so I was hoping that was going to tighten the car up a little bit. So before that last caution, I noticed I was actually faster than her. I think she had a little bit of damage on the front, but I was catching her, so I was basically licking my chops. I was like, this is going to come down to the last turn. I know it. And I was watching the clock because that has bit me in the past, but I was on top of it this time, and I did all I could. All night, I did all I could.
That leads to the next question. How difficult was it to pass, in your opinion, tonight?
It was pretty impossible to pass. You basically had to wait for somebody to make a mistake, get into the wall, or try to pass somebody else. It was really tough. So.
Indeed, it looked pretty tough from up in the broadcast booth tonight. But the next race for the calendar is at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Your thoughts about Charlotte?
I'm excited about Charlotte. It's one of my better tracks, so can't wait to get it done.
Can't wait to see what happens either. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Absolutely. All of my friends and family watching. I think my dad's watching tonight, so hi, Dad. Houndsville Racing, my brother, for helping me out.
Congratulations on the second place finish tonight. An absolutely stellar finish. Let's try and see if we can get Rachel Hunt once again. Thank you very much, Jake Honcho. Let's talk and see if we can get Rachel Hunt once again. Rachel, do you have a copy? try once more. Rachel Hunt, do you have a copy? Apologies here. Rachel. And unfortunately not able to get onto the mic, but she does say one thing, wants to be able to thank all the drivers and the series for what they do tonight. But standing by with third place is finisher, it's Brandon Magaleski. He's with Christian Challoner.
Hey, Brandon, pretty good race tonight. Came home in third place. Started ninth. Looked like you kind of went to the back end of the field near the start, picked up a little bit of damage, but really moved your way back through, made it exciting for us. You want to talk us through your race?
Brandon, do you have a copy?
Check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hey, I started out the race, qualified today. Pretty decent qualifying lap, but it's Bristol, so I was just trying to keep the nose of the car pretty clean. A little bit of contact here and there. Racing that close with this package, it's kind of what happens. But I took the tires early, trying to get off cycle with everybody. Thought maybe I could get a little bit extra grip and try to make some easier passes down lows. A little bit tough to do that all day, so you just kind of waited for somebody to make the mistakes. And there at the end on that last restart, I just tried to lock out the guys on the bottom and try to run that top groove, get the top three finish.
Yeah, it looked like pretty difficult to get the bottom working, but you were one of the few guys who we saw regularly kind of going down there and trying to have a look at see if that line was coming in. Now, a lot of restarts tonight, a lot of yellows. Was it particularly difficult kind of getting the wheel spin and everything? We saw a lot of people struggling, especially to getting away on the bottom line.
Yeah, early on the tires, you'd get a little wheel spin coming off the corner, so you had to kind of watch the pedal and just kind of feel it out. You get to a point where the tires would start to hook up, probably about 5 or 6 laps in, and that's when you could start to really push. Tried experimenting with some different lines and stuff to get better grip, try to get the wheel straighter early, and I think it seemed to pay off when I was trying to fight through the field early on.
Well, we've seen you come through the field a couple of times now. We saw you come through at Watkins Glen too. So next week is going to be Charlotte. What are you kind of feeling going into that race?
Going into Charlotte, I mean, it's a mile and a half. We're going to be doing a lot faster speeds. I'll probably try to keep the same momentum up. Try not to fight through the field as many times next time. Maybe try to run up front a little bit more. Just getting the practice in the cars and stuff. That's the hardest part during the week. Having a regular 9-to-5 job kind of gets in the way, but at least I'm able to kind of fund my little hobby, so appreciate it.
Well, we'll definitely be looking out for you at Charlotte, like we are kind of every week. Makes it entertaining for us to see you fight through. I know you said obviously going to kind of try and avoid that, but even if you do have to come through, it definitely makes it exciting for us to watch. So we're glad to see you in the league, and good luck in the next week. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, thank you guys. I'd like to thank PRL for putting on this league and the Cup cars. Definitely one of my favorite classes to run on iRacing. Also want to thank my team, simsport.gr. They're pretty much the backbone that helped me become a better driver week to week. So huge thank you to those guys.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and joining us, and we'll see you next week at Charlotte.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Once again, that was Brandon Magaleski coming away third tonight. Why don't we take the chance here to do something a little bit different? Talk to Colton Lane as well, because he had a stellar run as well. Colton Lane coming home in fourth tonight. Colton, how are you feeling?
I'm okay, a little tired, I guess.
Well, first off, you stayed in the top 5 for just about the entire night this evening. How do you feel about your race?
Well, honestly, after the season, between Sunday and Wednesday, I've had a pretty crappy year so far, or season, I should say. I guess the whole year. This feels like a win. To come over the top 5 even feels like a pretty good, honestly. I know I've said that.
In terms of the racing, how was it in terms of getting a rhythm to try and battle for positions and on top of that try and maintain position?
The rhythm's the good part. Like I feel like this is probably a decent track for me. And that's the part I like about it is getting into a rhythm. Because if you get into a rhythm, you can start clicking off and gaining. Like one of the middle runs, I fell off of some people. I think it was Jake and Rachel, and then I came back up to them a little bit. I mean, I know they had their own little kerfuffle there, but it's really fun. And then getting around somebody, that's the hardest part. Like I think Jake said, you got to wait for somebody to kind of mess up a little bit, and that's very true. Or you got to try to risk it going down in the middle or the bottom, and it's just not there on the track. It's not there. We don't have the PJ1 in the sim, and we can't simulate having grip down there very much, so it's kind of hard.
Next race is at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Your thoughts on Charlotte?
Should be good if we can keep the cautions down, which has been a problem, but that happens. I mean, it's Bristol, and we've had a couple other clunky ones, but if we can keep the cautions down and get some green flag runs, it can be really fun racing. If we're just having restart after restart, those are fun, those are exciting, but it's not as much racing. So hopefully we can get to do some green flag stints next week.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
Yeah, man, the whole Waterbag crew. Some of them don't do the Sunday series anymore, but pretty much all of us run on Wednesday. You guys, man, y'all do a good job. Love coming in here and watching you guys. Even throughout the week, every now and again, I'll pop in and watch some of y'all's broadcasts. And then, I've been with PRL for 3.5 years now. They were the first league I joined to do any sort of league racing on iRacing. And you can look at my account. I barely do official now, and it's just because of how much better the racing is in league races, specifically, I guess, PRL,
Glad to hear that you've been around for so long, and happy to have you on, as well as happy to hear that you're happy. Congratulations on the top 4.
Yeah, man, have a good week. We'll see y'all around.
Absolutely. That's Colton Lang coming home in 4th today. One last interview, and Christian Chowder standing by with somebody making an interesting call. It's Richard Regan Jr.
Richard, well, obviously we saw you dominated the vast majority of that race, but then made that decision to come down for tires at the very last second and slip back to 11th at the end. You want to talk us through that decision?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what happened. I was even talking to my teammates in Discord. I was like, yeah, definitely not going to pit, and I guess I just wasn't paying attention. Pretty stupid move on my part to throw away the race like that.
Well, the good news is there is a drop week in this series, and you've been pretty dominant for the rest of it. Obviously, there's only one race so far, excluding this Bristol race, that you haven't won. So it's not all bad, so to speak, and kind of made it interesting for us. Gave us a really high-profile talking point right at the end there.
Well, I'm sure it did. I mean, yeah, we do have the drop week, but I don't want to have to rely on that. It would have been nice to have a top 3 almost every week, or at least a top 5 every week, so the drop wouldn't be too bad on me. I know Dallas had problems this race again, so I mean that helps me out a little bit, but the battle's definitely not over in the points. James is there, Dallas is still there, Rachel's coming up. There's still a lot of other good people that's in this league, and they're keeping me on my toes. Definitely not the points night that I wanted.
Well, even though it wasn't the night you wanted, it still came home with 11th. So, as you mentioned, guys like Dallas, they had a much worse night. They had a lot of damage, and you led the majority of the race, so you're going to pick up some points because of that. And still, the 11th is not all bad. Now, heading into Charlotte next week, what are your kind of feelings about that track?
Our mile and a half game's been pretty good. We won Chicagoland. Me and James and Waterback Racing, we're all going to be working together. With that package, it's definitely a random question on what you're going to get. Everyone's pretty evenly spaced on competitiveness. So you just got to be smart, be really lucky, and be there at the end, be up front, have good teammates to work with you.
All right, well, thank you for coming and joining us. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout-out to?
Yeah, I like to give a shout-out to you guys for broadcasting, everyone that puts on the PRL, all the drivers, everyone that watches. Shout-out to my aunt and my mom for watching every week. And Folds of Honor, Craftsman, Multiple Sclerosis Society, and Susan G.
All right, thank you for joining us, and good luck for Charlotte.
Thank you.
That was Richard Regan Jr. coming home tonight in 11th after leading the majority of the laps. Christian, your final thoughts after a wild one here at Bristol?
Well, I think all of us didn't actually expect Rachel Hunt to win, but I think it was great to see her win. Just maybe not in the circumstances we were expecting. Obviously, Richard Regan continues to kind of be the class of the field, dominated the race, just made that decision on pit strategy that really didn't play out. But pretty much the race we were expecting. A lot of difficulty in passing, and I feel like we might see a similar scenario at Charlotte, just perhaps not as extreme, and it'll be kind of the bottom of the racetrack will be the preference rather than the top, so they should be a good one to watch as well.
Indeed, it should be interesting to see what happens at Charlotte. But with that, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action here from Thunder Valley and Bristol Motor Speedway. We'd also like to thank the Precision Racing League for organizing this strong series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware to our broadcast listed up on your screen now, with additional thanks to Jude LeBon, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today and Sean and Christian. To find out more about upcoming races and more, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storenby.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, one word, or Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next race is January the 26th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Be sure to tune in, it should be a fun one. Broadcast begins at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time here on GSRC. We also have upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.